Marty moved to Wellington in 1981 with his young bride and first child on the way. They planned to be here only a few years.
We needed a job. The first job that we got offered was in Wellington. So Mike jumped on it and here we came. And he was coaching girls basketball and he was teaching history.
When Mr. Wilmoth came to Wellington, he was very young because I was one of his students. And as a matter of fact, I just remember he and Mr. Strothman and all of those guys, they were just young and enthusiastic and were really great teachers. Some of my favorite teachers back in middle school.
Well, I first got to know Mike. It was probably his first year or so when he moved to town. Of course, he was a school teacher. I don't know if I knew that at the time, but he coached, him and Randy Strothman coached the Kiwanis baseball team. I was an umpire. So at that point in time in my career, I got to know Mike, but at that point in time it was not as official like it got to be later. They were kind of ornery, I'm going to put it back then. Umpire, it was like, get these guys out of here.
Richard Lawrence was one of those teachers who remembers the young coach when he first came to town.
I remember Lefty Van Pelt coming into my office, or into my classroom, one day about 3 o'clock, and he said, "You are going to have to officiate a football game." He got fouled up and the officials weren't there. And so I said, "I don't know anything about officiating." And he said, "Well, you and Strothman are going to do a 7th grade football game." So I think he was coaching, if I remember right, the 7th grade football team. And here's two flunkies out there trying to officiate. Neither one of us knew anything. And when we had to make a call for a penalty or something like that, we had to check with Mike, and he's coaching the team, but he's giving the hand signals about holding, offsides, all of those things that we were doing. So I was calling penalties on his team, and he was showing me how to do them.
I found out he officiated, and his dad had officiated, and got him started. And we got together, next thing you know, he got a crew together, and we worked together on a crew off and on for over the next 33 years. A lot of games. We worked some playoff games, I won't say a lot, but quite a few. Mike's worked a bunch since then. He's worked some state championships. Mike's a really, really good official, and he works at it really hard.
It was his passion for officiating that not only took him around the county, the state of Kansas, but to the NFL gridiron as well.
So kind of to show the character of my dad when he was working in the NFL, he had a Thursday night game up in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. Instead of really getting to enjoy the day after or anything, he had a responsibility to get back to his classroom, got in an early morning flight, got back into Wellington, got to his classroom, taught it all afternoon. Then it's Friday night, so we went with this high school football crew and worked the game. Going from Lambeau Thursday night, working for the professionals, to a high school game here in Kansas. That's just the way he was. He had responsibilities, and that's just the way he is. He does the right thing when he's supposed to do it, which sometimes is crazy the way to think of it, but he's always a stand-up guy, and he's always somebody that you can rely on in a time of need.
He actually was at an NFL game, and I think it was 2 nights later he went to South Haven and did an 8-man game. But it was just as important to him to do that 8-man game as it was to do the NFL game. But I have to tell you how supportive the school administration was and the town was at that time. Not only that they got how important it was to Mike, but how hard he had worked to get there. Mike worked every game that he could to get to that point in his career, and it made a difference in all of our lives, and to get to share it with the town was something that we will always, always remember.
Wilmoth knew how to win over his critics as well.
I can remember a ball game that you officiated for me. In the old junior high, you know, it was, the acoustics were terrible. And this was a good ball game. I mean, it was back and forth, 2 points here, and they'd be ahead by 2, and then we'd get ahead by 2. and Mike was officiating, just doing a really good job. And there was a man up in the stands, the old junior high, the bleachers were way up high, you know. They were like 4 deep, but they were up above the court. And I can remember Mike officiating, and this old boy, every call he made, it was wrong. And he was, of course, on the opposing, it was on the opposing team from my team. And he was just getting more belligerent all the time. Finally, Mike had enough, and he blew the whistle. And of course, there was so much noise in the gym, but when he blew that whistle, he blew it. I mean, he meant everybody to hear it. And he walks over to this guy, and he looks up at him, and he takes his whistle off, and he just holds the whistle up there and says, "I don't get paid enough to do this." He said, "If you want to officiate this game, you go right ahead and do it. And if not, then let me do it, please." Never heard another peep out of that guy that ball game.
Brandon says one NFL game in particular made him most proud of his dad.
The home opener, the Pittsburgh Steelers and Denver Broncos. It was Peyton Manning's first game in Denver. I was there with all my family in the stands. Just knowing how much work and effort and miles that he drove, time away from family, and just he had finally earned something that he much deserved to be on that field with the professionals and knowing that he was going to be successful. Dad always said, no matter what, it's just a football game, and I know how to work a football game. That's the way Dad was, and that was when I was proud. He was in that tunnel. Everybody was screaming, 50,000, 70,000 people, and my dad was getting ready to be a part of that.
But it's the man, coach, teacher, father, grandfather, and friend that makes Mike Wilmoth stand out.
You know, one thing I tell some of the graduating seniors each year is at some point in their future, they're going to meet someone that they don't even know right now. That'll probably turn out to be, if not their best friends, one of their best friends. And I always tell them that just for the excitement of that, knowing that you have that out there waiting, that life is full of surprises and new friends and stuff like that are always great to run across. That happened to me in the fall of 1999 when I started the Crusader website, and you were a teacher at the high school as you are now. You took me in, you answered question after question with me, you sat and talked with me, and about all kinds of things. And I really feel like a great friendship formed at that time and has continued ever since.
He cares about his family first, and then he cares about everybody else. Sometimes he cares a little bit too much, but that's my dad, and I think that's why everybody likes him. He's taught thousands of kids. He might not remember all of their names, but he'll know their face. My dad's a good man, respect him. I think everybody should have a man like him in their life. It's been a journey, and we keep on going, and I want to congratulate him on winning this award. Sorry I had to lie to you to get you here, but I hope you enjoyed the day.